All right, thank you for staying with us. This morning, we'll talk about um, the position of doing things well, institutions in Nigeria, leadership, antecedents, and concerns, either genuine or not, about association and groups, especially as it comes to governance in Nigeria, it comes to elections in Nigeria. Now, the body saddled with that nationally is the Independent National Electoral Commission, that's INEC in Nigeria, under the leadership of Professor Joash Amupitan'S. And so, he has been just few months in charge, actually, but there are concerns that have been raised in some quarters about his belief, the man's psyche, his belief, and maybe his position on national and maybe religious issues. And, one of those associations is the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, SCSN rather, the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, that has renewed his call for the immediate removal of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amupitan'S, insisting that his continued stay in office poses a serious threat to the credibility of Nigeria's democratic process. So I am sure for people just listening, they might be wondering why, how, what does the Shari'ah Council mean? I'll tell you, the president of the council, Sheikh Bashir Umar, made the call last week during the council's 2026 annual pre-Ramadan lecture in General Assembly in Abuja. Speaking on the theme, Nigeria's future, faith, justice, and leadership, Umar said the council's demand was anchored on what he said is the INEC chairman's questionable antecedent, particularly a legal brief he authored which alleged the existence of a Christian genocide in Nigeria. He said the federal government has repeatedly dismissed the claim. I remember, that claim by the U.S. government, the U.S. Senate, Mike Riley, and all of those guys that are pushing that front, that there is a targeted killing against Christians in Nigeria. They claim the federal government has repeatedly, the presidency has said, no, there are issues, there are killings. We know that we have challenges, but it's not really of a religious dimension, which has snowballed into what the U.S. President Donald Trump had to make a statement about when he said it was going to come gun blazing, to take out Islamic jihadists in Nigeria, in that disgraced country. You remember that painful statement made by Donald Trump, which is not sorry about actually, and which has generated controversies. Maybe it helped at the end of the day because there are working contingents on that matter from the Nigerian side and on the U.S. side. So that particular position made by the federal government and president is to say there is no genocide in Nigeria is what the Shari'ah Council is going to say. The Nigerian government has said this is not happening. But in the past, Professor Joash Amupitan'S, in his private capacity, authored a particular brief and he alluded that there was genocide in Nigeria. So the Shari'ah Council is, raising some eyebrows about that. They said this is not the first time the council is taking this position. In the legal brief he personally sent, he sought to establish the existence of a Christian genocide in Nigeria, a position that is in direct conflict with the official stance of the federal government. And Umar said the position taken by INEC chairman at that time amounted to divisive propaganda and raised eyebrows. Serious concerns about his neutrality as the head of Nigeria's electoral umpire. Let me quote Umar. For an umpire in a democratic process, you must have someone whose integrity is not compromised and who is clearly unbiased. As far as we are concerned, his integrity has been compromised. The honorable thing for him to do is to resign. If it does not, the government should dismiss or retire him. The council must remain resolute in his demand, as clearly stated that the Umar will not recognize or legitimize any election presided over by character with questionable integrity, as democratic credibility must never be compromised. These are some of the positions made by the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria. We have with us somebody who has been on the field talking about election monitoring, observation, credibility of the process, human rights activism, and all of those things. Comrade Ayo, good to see you in our studios. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Now, this is the position of the Supreme Council, Supreme Shari'ah Council. The Khan has, responded to it as well, but we get there in a bit. But don't you think maybe they might have some point to say a man is known for his belief and his antecedent, and that man, expressed those beliefs in his private capacity at a time through a brief, but now that same man is occupying this very delicate position, and if he still holds such a belief, maybe in their own world might be a bias against the Muslim Ummah, and they are saying, let someone else, and they are not even saying you should be a Muslim or a Christian, somebody with integrity according to them, replace Amupitan. Let him retire. If he's not retiring, federal government dismiss or retire him. Any point in that particular position?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's an unnecessary rule and a distraction to the man occupying such a sensitive position at a time like this. And we have to come to a point in this country where we will realize that the opinion of a sect, I deliberately use that word, a sect, because the council you are referring to is simply a religious sect. Every Muslim in Nigeria do not belong to that council, just like every Christian in Nigeria does not belong to CAN. So you can, if we want to now begin to toll the opinion and the position of every sect to take decisions that are national, then we are in for a trouble as a nation. Don't forget that this is not a religious state. Nigeria, by the provision of the law guiding us as a nation, by the provision of the Constitution, we are a secular nation, which means nobody gets appointed into any office by the position or by his belief or by his religious tendency. There's no way you can get appointed into office by regional consideration. That's why we have, the Federal Character Service and all the rest. You can get appointed by the virtue of where you are from. You can get admitted by the virtue of where you are from. When it comes to political appointment or any other thing in Nigeria, it's not given by the position taken or by the religious belief. So if that is settled constitutionally, that nobody gets elected or appointed into office by the provision of the religious belief that they hold, why should a sect wake up and now hold an individual responsible for what he chose as a belief? Two things. Number one, that position that Amupitan held was given in his private capacity. He didn't give that brief as INEC chairman. He gave that brief as a private citizen. So that was his opinion. That was his belief. That was his conviction. And nobody can hold him responsible for it.
Right.
So now he has been appointed as the INEC chairman. The question would be, has there been avenue or there been instances where he was asked if he still holds that belief? So why should you judge a man by your own opinion or by your own bias? The fact that I had the belief last year, given realities and developments that I'm exposed to, there are tendencies that opinion might have changed or might have been reviewed. I'm not holding brief for Amupitan.
Right.
But let's assume without conceding that he even still holds that belief. That is his private conviction as a Nigerian, which he has a right to. So you don't now begin to ask the federal government to remove him from office because of his religious belief, which has nothing to do with his office. Are there no commissioners under him that are dedicated Muslims? Why didn't he say, as the INEC chairman, he cannot preside over a board where there are Muslims because he believed that there was a Christian genocide? Look at the configuration of the board of the INEC or even the commissioners. Majority of them are Muslims. There are more Muslims in the board and in the commissionership of INEC than we have Christians. So when they hold meetings, as Amupitan stood up one day to say, oh, I cannot hold meetings because there are Muslims on this table. So the fact that he held a belief that there was a deliberate genocide against Christians in Nigeria does not mean he hates Muslims. We should learn to call a spade a spade. You cannot come to my home and rob me and still deny me the right to call you a thief simply because of a belief that you hold. So for me, this is an unnecessary rule. Before Mr. President became president, he had opinions. A lot of them have surfaced after he became president. We know what belief he had about Afenifere. We know what belief he had about, what do you call it? Constitutional review. We know the belief he had about getting the Nigeria splitted and the, creating nations within the nations. We know all of those beliefs. So why don't you begin to judge him? Why don't you say because he believed that Nigerians should go their separate ways, Yoruba, Igbo, that he had that belief before. Now that he's president, he should use his fiat as president to now divide us. And new reality is not dawning on him. So it is inappropriate. And we must begin to shut down this kind of noises when a group of people or some individuals believe that the opinion that they hold of another human being or a fellow citizen should be respected and followed.
It's a noise.
It's noise as far as I'm concerned. Mr. President will be doing more harm to us as a nation if he begins to take decisions based on the opinion of a group. So tomorrow PFN can also come up to say, look, we don't like the face of your vice president. Have you forgotten the allegations against Mr. Vice President when he was nominated? That when he was governor of the state, he was harboring criminals, he was sponsoring Boko Haram at a point in time, pictures of himself and leaders of notorious whatever was everywhere. Why didn't the CAN and the BFN said, no, we reject him as vice president, or come back after now that he has been elected to say, look, because of his antecedents, or because of the records proven or unproven while he was governor, remove him as vice president. So why does the Muslim think all of a sudden their opinion, when I say Muslim, I mean that sect, why should they just wake up one day now and believe that their opinion, because it's even arrogant when they went ahead in that press statement of that press to say that an election presided over by somebody of Aminta character will be rejected by them. As what? What is their percentage or ratio?
Well, the Nigerian Supreme Council for this particular, because I'm just trying to get it so that we really get the point where this particular organization is Supreme Council for Shari'ah in Nigeria. Supreme Council for Shari'ah in Nigeria. And I know there is another body that serves like the apex body for Muslims in Nigeria. I think Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs.
Yes, right over by the Sultan of Sokoto.
Yeah, so when you say sect, I was just trying to see if it's the same body, but they are quite different. Actually, well, okay.
All right, Mr. Ologun, part of this allegation or part of the concern raised by Murik is that they referenced actually another concern raised by some other bodies. It's not only SCSN. They also raised concern about the fact that Amupitan'S had previously served, on the election petition of this particular administration. Let me read it here. Murik also referenced concerns earlier raised by other groups, including the Association of Legislative Drafting and Advocacy Practitioners, alleging a potential conflict of interest because Amupitan'S was part of the legal team for the ruling party during the 2023 presidential election petition. If we're not going to take this, concern into, consideration on the religious basis, what about this particular aspect of it, having served, on an election petition? Allegedly.
That allegation, he served as what? You rightly said it. A member of the Legislative Drafting Committee. Who is Amupitan'? Amupitan' is not just a practicing lawyer. He's a professor of law. As a professor in any field, you are, we call it referenced authority. Because if you are writing your thesis as a doctorate student, they will tell you when you are writing, you must use referenced authority. So Amupitan' as a professor of law is a referenced authority in law. When you want to build a house and go and consult a roadside bricklayer to give you the design of your home, you are definitely going to consult someone who is trained to design a building. So if that person now helps you to design and give you your design, and you decided to now carry that design to a roadside bricklayer, and while the construction was going on, the house crumbled, you go and arrest the man who designed it. Amupitan' was playing his role as a lawyer. He was employed to perform a role which he was paid for. While the ruling party now, or the ruling government now, were they supposed to go and consult laboratory technicians for such an assignment, which is legal? They would definitely consult people within the legal profession. And if Amupitan' was a lawyer, and is still a lawyer, and is a professor in law, and he was consulted to perform a role for which he was paid, why would you hold him responsible for wanting to hold a bias?
Can we look at it this way, that this particular position that Amupitan now occupies, could it have been a kind of contractual position, more like a reward for something that had been done?
See, we get a lot of things wrong. Amupitan is just one person in INEC. He's the chairman of INEC. He does not take decisions alone. There is a board and there is a management team of INEC. Before any decision is taken, the management team of INEC meets. They consider whatever is on their table. At some point, I'm aware that if they're going to contrast, they vote. And the majority carries the vote. And Amupitan constitutionally does not have the power to, unlike the Senate president, to take a baton and hit the table and say, that is my decision. He dare not. Because the position he occupies is more of that of an overseer. So why should you be afraid of the decision of one person in a management team where you even have members of other professions and other religions?
It will appear like you are playing down the role of a chairman.
I'm not playing down the role.
Because people had, some persons, rightly or not, had their issues with, Yakubu when he was there as well. So this same logic will have sufficed at the time to say, oh, Professor Yakubu is just an individual.
No,
so
you are getting it wrong.
Okay.
As the chairman of INEC, whoever occupies that post, Amupitan or not, carries the burden of that organization.
Okay.
The failure and the success of that organization ends at a stable. His name will be called. If I ask you now, who is the director in charge of public, whatever, of INEC, you probably will not know. But if you are waking up from sleep, what's the name of the chairman of INEC, you will know. Because the responsibility of success and failure rests on that man who occupies the apex position. But that does not suffice to say that every decision taken by INEC is taken alone or singularly by that one person.
So you are saying if he has a belief, in this case, this controversial one, it will not translate into something that will affect his work.
It cannot. Besides, what is religious about election? It is simple. An electoral law, an electoral guideline, an electoral timetable, people go out to vote. Would he say because he's a Christian, somebody who is a Christian and came third in an election, he will now go and announce him as the winner because they would honor the first runner up and the winner are Muslim. So he will go and pick somebody who came third and come and announce him as the winner just because he's INEC chairman. He does not even have that power because he's not a returning officer. Don't forget that every election has a returning officer. An INEC chairman cannot overrule the pronouncement of a returning officer either at the local level, at the state level, or at the national level. On the day of election, the INEC chairman himself is an onlooker. He plays no role. His job ends the day everybody goes to the poll to vote. Every other thing after then is beyond his control and that of his management. So what is religious? How can his religious belief now influence his role?
It's a religious body that is just bringing up
a religious sect.
Or sect,
it's a body.
as you put it.
It's a body.
So it may
Supreme
not
Council
be
for
from
Shari'ah
a religious aspect. It's just that a religious, sect is bringing about this.
How would the role of Amupitan's chairman affect their belief? How? Does it stop a Muslim?
They're not really talking about their belief, do you?
They are talking about Amupitan's belief. So how does Amupitan's belief affect their religious bias?
Mr. Ologun, what is said exactly is that Muslims, according to them, will not recognize any election conducted by Amupitan.
Wait, Femi, wait.
Please hold on,
go ahead, wait. Two things.
No, I want to make a point so that you can.
He has no right, no power to speak for all Muslims.
Okay.
Don't forget that the overall body for Muslims is the one that the Sultan of Sokoto presides over.
Supreme Council for Islamic.
So you are just exempt within that body. So how can you come out to say Muslims will not accept the result of an election? Right. You have no such right. That's number one. Number two, there is nowhere in our law where a religious sect is given the power to reject or accept the outcome of an election.
But they can influence. Because what they are saying is
they will not
let me make this point so that you can answer before topic comes in. What they are saying is they will not accept, either once the law takes its course, I think everybody is
so I
you
wonder.
can only head to court. But what they are saying is this: acceptance is key, Mr. Ologun. And
perception.
Let me
key. Acceptance is with the people and the court.
Right. So what they are saying is this: because of this particular concern, that he has made the position that there is genocide in Nigeria. And the federal government has said there is no genocide in Nigeria. So they see, by inference, as is bias towards them. But the question is, let's, by way of conversation, a little digress. Do you really think there is no genocide? Really?
I'm neither here nor there. Number one, I say it as often as possible. I am not a chronic Christian. I am a believer of Christ. So when you say there is a Christian genocide, I cannot tell you a yes or a no, because I do not have access to empirical facts with which to speak.
How about information in the public space?
Yeah. There is no killing.
Churches are still being attacked.
A mosque not being attacked.
Yeah. No, I mean by virtue of
what was on the headlines?
The question is, that is what made the headline. Are you telling me that in the last 1 week, 2 weeks, mosques were not attacked in the north?
That if that did happen, it will not make the headline?
It does make the headline. If you Google it, a single Google search, Muslims, mosque attacked
3 weeks ago or so.
See, a simple Google search will show you how much mosques have been attacked in the last 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. So if mosques are being attacked and church are being attacked, how do you come around to say there is a Christian genocide? If you want to now flip it over again, you will now look at area of concentration. There are places in this country where there are more Christians being concentrated than Muslims. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, you will say that if Muslims are coming from where they are majority to come and overrun Christians where they are majority, then there's something to be worried about. But where Muslims are overrunning fellow Muslims and destroying mosques, will you call that a Muslim genocide?
But there are specific places, and even in a place where we have population, overriding the other, this thing about specific designations, churches, mosques, a place or a gathering that has more people of a sect, as you would call it, what would you call that?
I've explained that to you. For example, let's be practical.
Okay.
In Benue, for example, there are more Christians than Muslims. So if any attacks happens in Benue, it will be assumed that more Christians are being killed. That is because the Christians are in the majority in that part of the country. So if you want to look at it from the perception of the concentration of a particular religious belief and the number of casualties in that place, you are tempted to call it a Christian genocide. But the truth is, even if it were not carried out by Muslims, so far there will be killing in Benue, there will be more Christians dying than Muslims because there are more concentration of Christians there. But if you now go to Sokoto, where Boko Haram, who are assumed to be Muslims, are now destroying churches, mosques, and killing people there, you are not likely quick to call it Muslim genocide, because the first thing that will come to your mind is rat they chop rat. It is assumed. I use the word assumption because those Boko Haram, those people, they are not Muslims in the right sense of it. But because they carry the coloration of that religion, and they are now attacking mosque, you are likely going to look at it like it's not a genocide, because assumption of Muslims being Boko Haram members are the same people attacking mosques who are Muslims. We tend to overlook it. And that is the web I don't want to be caught in. So if you overlook attack on mosque in Sokoto, in Adamawa and the rest of them, where there are more Muslims than Christians, and you don't prioritize or make it an issue, because to you it is looking like rat are eating rat, because Muslims supposedly that are member of those groups are killing Muslims. You see it as they are killing themselves. You now flip the coin. Because there are more Christians in Benue or in a particular area, and Muslims supposedly, I use the word supposedly because I don't believe that those members of Boko Haram and rest of them are Muslims.
Would you say that these things are random attacks? We are to look at the preference for the locations. They are not
random. See, I don't.
Schools, churches.
I won't let you push me into being biased until I have access to records, maybe military records, that says that in the last 1 month, 10,000 Christians has been killed, and only 500 Muslims have been killed. 1,000 churches have been attacked, and only 5 mosques have been attacked. Then we can now begin to dot the lines and say, this looks more like a genocide. But if I don't have access to such empirical evidences and records, I won't join anybody to say there's a Christian genocide in Nigeria. There are Christian killings.
All right, let's go back
not
to
a genocide as
some of the
concerned.
components of this report, where Khan made this inference into as to saying that they said the association asked who was sponsoring the campaign and why such interests were allegedly hiding under a religious platform. And I'm going to quote, it says here, anyone hiding under the guise of the Shari'ah Council to demand the removal of the INEC chairman over political or sectarian interest should come out boldly. Otherwise, the ploy has died naturally, the statement reads. Do you hold the same belief that, because there are several issues, in the polity where people are deemed or people seem to feel that there are some rules in the society that are being sponsored, underlying sponsorship on there. Do you think that that is what is happening here as well?
I'm tempted to say so. And I will tell you why.
Why?
Because this is, I'm looking for the right word to use. This is a terrain that I'm familiar with. I'm bold to say it. I'm a propagandist by excellence. I get paid for cooking propaganda for groups, whether religious or political. So I understand how these things work. And I hold the position of Khan. Now look, you don't have to hide under a sect to make this demand. This demand came long before Amupitan'S was eventually appointed. All of these issues that were raised before immediately his name was announced as a nominee. All of these concerns came up. And that didn't stop him from passing through the National Assembly screening. Are there no Muslims in the National Assembly? Are there no members of that set in the National Assembly? So why didn't they stop the screening of Amupitan'S based on these allegations while he was facing the National Assembly? So he passed the National Assembly screening and got appointed by Mr. President. And you are now coming again with all of that. I see it as there are underlying factors. Yorubas will say, Rumitonjo, Onilu Embelape. There are people who are afraid of the position of this man, I'm assuming, during the election, that they might not be able to bribe him, they might not be able to pay him off, they might not succeed in killing him, and then if he eventually preside over the election, they might not go their way. Politicians can use anybody, even bishops. You saw what happened when Tinubu was contesting. You would not have imagined that bishops, whether fake or real, now will carry cassocks to come and play. The same thing repeated in Wike's camp a couple of days ago, about 1 week ago, where bishops were cursing fellow Christians because Wike is involved. So, look, all of this, we understand.
So it could be political.
It's not that it could be.
It is.
It is.
All right, we are due for a break. But before that, because when we come back, we change gear. It's this issue of belief and antecedent. Don't you think it really matters? Because I want us to cast our mind back to when it was the Buhari government and people brought out some extreme positions of the former Minister of Digital Communications, Issa Pantami, and some of the positions he held, and which, averagely looked very extreme on religious extremity and, fanaticism and all of those things. Oh, this, that, and some of his involvement and his utterance as a Muslim cleric, especially, before he got that position, he rigmarolled himself out of that position. But some were not really comfortable, and they called for his sack at that time. Is it not the same, actually? Because those positions were held at that time, and people still believe it's a belief. You can't change it. And this person should not be sitting, we are talking about INEC, the midwife here. Pantami sat on the communications and all of those things of Nigeria at that time. He wasn't removed, but is it not the same call? It is the same call. But the question is, where was this body when those allegations were raised against Pantami? Did they remember that Pantami was holding extreme positions? Why didn't they hold this same position they are holding against Amupitan'S? Why didn't they hold it against their own brother, Pantami? But you see, there are three things involved. A man's belief, perception, and the position of the law. By the position of the law, that is by inference constitution, if you have not been convicted of a crime, if your beliefs are not criminally inclined, you are simply voicing an opinion. Now you move backward a step, then you come to the issue of perception. I hold my belief. I'm born a Christian. No matter how liberal I try to think, there are things you will do or you will say as a Muslim that will strike a chord in me
because of how I was brought up, beliefs I was brought up with, that it will take extra caution to not want to react. That is where perception comes in. Now, the personality that is being perceived, that is the character and the belief of that person. Just like they will say, you cannot change a man's belief. You can only ask him to hold on to it because of the position he's holding.
All right.
Mr. President, as president of Nigeria, holds some beliefs that are very, very extreme. He was one of the people that believed that everything in politics is right. He said it as governor, even post-governorship, that look, politics is war. And whatever is needed to win it, you give into it. But he cannot dare leave that belief as president of the country. That is his belief. But he dare not translate that belief to the ruling of a country, because he must realize that by the provision of the seat he occupies as president, he has to be liberal.
All right.
A little here, a little there. So people should stop confusing a man's belief with the opinion of that man's belief and position of the law. Your perception is not the law.
All right. We'll take a quick break right now. When we return, we speak to issues still about governance and leaders and some of their utterances as far as these nations can stay with us.
Our pangolins are in crisis. They need our help. Hundreds of pangolins are killed for their meat and scales every year. If we continue this way, we'll risk losing them forever. Tell your family and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat from pangolins, because protecting nature protects us all.
Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Kololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
All right, as I said earlier, you're welcome back. It's about statesman. It's about influence. It's about governance. About politics as well. But the real players and what they stand for and what they tend to say is our next point of discussion. Last week, of course, is no more news. The back and forth in River State for almost 2 years or thereabout now. And in fact, I dare ask Nigerians, and let me ask that question again, that in the last 2 years, whenever the word rivers is mentioned, what comes to it? Actually, has it been about commerce? Has it been about industry? Has it been about manufacturing? Has it been about education? Your guess is as good as mine. In the last 2-3 years, whenever you hear the word rivers, is it that Wiki or Fubara or Amaule or Tinubu? And it seems that state has been reduced to individuals, strong individuals, I must tell you, at the expense of a strong institution. Now, last week, in the series of, these consultations or thank you visits or whatever, it seems the minister of the FCT has been doing, he was in a particular place where he said some certain things. We talked about that the renewed hope agenda, putting foot soldiers in place. They are supposed to use the Yakubu Gowon Stadium in Port Harcourt, but that the coordinator in the state, that's in River State, wrote to the state government, and it seems they were denied. And the former governor of that same state, 2 times, 8 years, in charge, and a serving cabinet member, says some 13 things that many persons are having issues with. And his sane mind really might not be too comfortable. And the political tension in the Dar River State, escalated through that particular statement. That was on Friday, where Nyesom Wike, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, warned that his supporters will forcibly gain access to the Yakubu Gowon Stadium if the state government continues to deny them permission to hold political rallies. He said, we applied, we will have the video shortly, we applied to use the Yakubu Gowon Stadium and they refused. And he said, if we apply again and they refuse, we will break it and nothing will happen. Heaven will not fall. And, these are some of the things he said. I told you that by January, we'll start playing politics. This is January and we have started. If you don't give us the venue, we will break it. I'm sure. All right, we'll just allow you to take a listen to a cabinet member, Nyesom Wike, said those things.
We have not completed this journey.